already doing deals. Like they're trying to give you a free tire change. They're trying to give you a free car wash and all types of stuff to get out to these games. This is wild. Look at how empty this arena is. Look at how empty it is. The cheapest ticket, $6.
The WNBA finals were meant to be the ultimate stage, a showcase of elite talent, high-stakes drama, packed arenas, and a triumphant finale to a historic season. But instead, it turned into a quiet, uneasy reminder. Without Caitlin Clark, the excitement fades. As Aja Wilson and Dana Bonner stepped onto half-empty courts with tickets starting at just $6. The truth hit harder than any buzzer beater. This wasn't a celebration of a championship. It was proof that without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA loses its heartbeat.
I believe y'all don't care. I think y'all care about the drama around it. I do believe that, but I don't think you care about the events itself. And judging by ticket prices, neither does anybody else.
What was supposed to be the league's most dazzling moment quickly felt off. Cameras couldn't disguise the glaring gaps of empty red seats, the lonely thump of the ball echoing through silence, or the uneasy expressions of players realizing the energy, the roar, the momentum, all of it vanished the moment Caitlin Clark and the Fever were gone.
WNBA is in a panic right now. The WNBA higher-ups are panicking. They don't know what's gonna happen. I already let y'all know. I showed y'all the numbers that they was concerned about the playoff ratings and what they will be for the networks. They're concerned about it already. No Caitlin Clark here to carry everybody. They don't know how these numbers are gonna look. Tickets are they're already doing Black Friday sales for playoff tickets. There are teams already doing Black Fridays.
For Aja Wilson and Dana Bonner, it was nothing short of humiliating. These were supposed to be the WNBA's crowned queens, the faces leading the charge for women's sports. Yet instead of thunderous applause, they were met with polite golf claps and yawning sections of empty seats. Frustration was written all over their faces. During warm-ups, cameras caught Aja shaking her head, muttering, "This is the finals?" It wasn't arrogance, it was sheer disbelief. Why do you think the finals fell flat? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
With Wnba Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, and the Mercury in the finals against Aja Wilson and the Aces, will you be locked in watching this series? ? Yes or no? Hit the poll. 4% of brave souls said yes. 96% said hell.
Meanwhile, Dana Bonner tried to maintain her composure on the court, but her post-game interview said it all. "You spend your whole life working for this," she admitted, her voice tight. "You expect the energy, the passion, the fans, but just look around." And she wasn't exaggerating. Even with championship banners hanging overhead, the arena felt empty, lifeless. The WNBA's biggest night ended up feeling more like a preseason scrimmage than a championship showdown.
If ever there was proof that the Caitlin Clark fans / Fever fans are now the overwhelming majority of the fandom, look at ticket prices for finals games.
On paper, this final showdown had it all. Reigning MVPs, household names, and storylines that should have had fans on the edge of their seats. But without the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, the excitement vanished. The energy that had fueled the league all summer disappeared overnight. When ticket prices on Ticketmaster dropped to just $6, it only confirmed what everyone already knew. The fans had checked out.
So now everyone has to get their numbers on their own. We saw Caitlin Clark bring in a whopping 1.8 million viewers for her first playoff game versus the Connecticut Sun last season. That was more than all of the other playoff games that was played that day combined. More than all of the other playoff games played that day combined.
Aja Wilson, normally the epitome of poise, looked rattled. For years, she had been the WNBA's golden standard, celebrated by the media and showcased as the face of the league. But the reality was impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark's absence from the playoffs revealed just how much of the league's buzz relied on her presence. For Wilson, the finals felt less like a triumph and more like a wake-up call. Social media was merciless. 6. That's not a finals ticket, that's a parking fee. One fan snapped. Another shared a clip of the nearly empty arena, captioning it, "You drove away the star who packed every seat. Now enjoy the echo." Within hours, the post went viral, racking up more views than the official WNBA Finals highlight.
Last year, the cheapest ticket available to see the Indiana Fever at the Connecticut Sun in the first round of the 2024 WNBA playoffs, $133. Let's just say it's not near that expensive this year. It's not. So right there, Indiana Fever just had Caitlin Clark cut a WWE promo.
Inside the locker rooms, frustration quickly turned to anger. Aja Wilson and Dana Bonner weren't just disappointed by the empty seats, they felt betrayed. The league had promised bigger crowds, more exposure, and growth, but the fans hadn't shown up for them. They came for Caitlin Clark. She was the draw, the story, the phenomenon. Without her, the energy vanished. It feels like nobody's even watching, Wilson admitted after Game 1, clearly deflated, and she wasn't exaggerating. Ratings tumbled nearly 50% compared to the semifinals featuring Clark and the Fever. Social media clips that once went viral barely made it to the trending page. ESPN, which used to analyze every Clark assist, was now airing reruns of off-season NFL debates. The spotlight had moved, and the finals were left in the shadows.
If the Fever and Caitlin Clark was playing in a finals game, let's say against the Mercury, with all that drama around there, would there be a single ticket less than $300? Now, I mean, honestly, a single ticket less than $300. I don't think so. I think you'd have courtside seats go for $5,000. If Caitlin Clark was playing, if she was in these finals along.
Joanna Bonner's post-game remarks hit hard. "It's disrespectful," she said, her voice sharp. "We play hard. We deserve full arenas." The comment went viral almost instantly. Some fans sympathized, but many saw it as karma. "You mocked the player who drew the crowds," one popular reply read, "and now you're wondering where everyone went." The backlash was swift. All season, veterans like Aja Wilson and Cheryl Swoops had taken shots at Caitlin Clark, questioning her hype, minimizing her impact, and even suggesting fans only tuned in because of her race. Now, staring out at rows of empty seats, Wilson and Bonner were confronted with the consequences. The players who spent months downplaying Clark's influence were finally seeing the league without her, and it was a stark reminder of her true power.
Don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said, "One player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion, but not like this." This news is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA.
League officials scrambled to contain the fallout. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert released a generic statement praising the competitive spirit of the finals, but no amount of PR could mask the issue. You can't call it growth when championship tickets sell for less than a movie. The optics were brutal. After boasting about sellouts and record ratings all season, the finals turnout was a harsh dose of reality. Even players from other teams couldn't ignore it. One anonymous WNBA athlete reportedly joked on social media, "It's not the finals, it's open practice in nicer uniforms." That line quickly went viral. Fans piled on, flooding social media with posts comparing regular season Fever games to the finals. One split-screen image showed a packed Gainbridge Fieldhouse during a regular Fever matchup next to the near-empty finals arena, captioned, "You miss her yet?" Behind the scenes, tension simmered. Insiders claimed Aja Wilson and Dana Bonner privately vented their anger at the league's executives for the botched marketing and lack of media support, blaming Engelbert's office for failing to sustain the momentum Caitlin Clark had created. But some whispered a harsher truth. This wasn't just about marketing, it was about ego. All year, veterans like Wilson and Bonner resisted the idea that Clark had transformed the league. They dismissed her popularity as a temporary media circus, urging fans to respect the pioneers and pay their dues. Now, staring at half-filled arenas, they were confronted with the reality. Clark's influence wasn't hype, it was a movement, and they weren't leading it. The tension spilled over in the post-game press conference. When asked about attendance, Wilson tried to remain composed. "We can only control what we do on the court," she said cautiously before adding, "but we deserve more." Bonner didn't hold back. "You fight all year to get here, and it feels like nobody cares," she snapped. Silence fell over the room. Her words were raw, honest, and a stark window into the depth of the frustration. By morning, the clips had gone viral. Sports analysts dissected their remarks, noting the irony that Wilson and Bonner, two of Clark's most vocal critics, were now pleading for attention. Stephen A. Smith weighed in. "You can't chase away the person who built the house, then complain nobody's visiting." Harsh, but true. The backlash hit immediately. Memes flooded Twitter, showing empty arenas with captions like $6 finals special, bring everyone. Photoshop edits placed Wilson in deserted stands with the words, "Energy? Never heard of her." Even ESPN leaned into the narrative, posting highlights of Clark's past Fever playoff games during Game 2 of the finals, a reminder of who really drew the crowd. By the time Game 2 arrived, the embarrassment had escalated into a full-blown crisis. The league even tried giving away free tickets at local stores, but the seats stayed empty. Broadcasts avoided wide-angle shots entirely, sticking to tight camera angles to hide the vacant upper decks. Social media, of course, saw straight through it. Fans flooded platforms with panoramic clips of Barron Arena, one caption reading, "The Finals, sponsored by Crickets." Even players not directly involved in the Clark debate started weighing in. Some called for unity, while others quietly admitted the truth. The finals lacked the spark only Caitlin Clark could bring. It was a rare moment of honesty, and it made Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's job even harder. She tried to project calm, praising both teams' resilience and leadership, but her words landed with the weight of a deflated basketball. The half-empty stands told a much different story. When Engelbert took the podium for the pre-game press conference, the tension in the room was almost tangible. She opened with rehearsed optimism about historic growth and competitive excellence, but the journalists staring back at her weren't buying it, and neither were the fans watching at home. The first question hit like a punch. "Commissioner, how do you explain record low attendance and declining fan engagement during the finals?" Engelbert paused, forcing a rehearsed smile. Her response blamed scheduling conflicts and football season. The follow-up landed even harder. "Isn't this really about the league mishandling Caitlin Clark's rise and alienating her fan base?" That was the breaking point. Her expression hardened, voice clipped. "This isn't about one player," she insisted. "We have incredible talent across the league." But her defensiveness spoke louder than the words themselves. Within minutes, clips of the exchange went viral. The hashtag #TheFireAngelBert exploded across social media, turning the commissioner into the face of the WNBA's identity crisis. Fans had lost patience. Suddenly, Aja Wilson and Dana Bonner were back in the storm. Engelbert's defensive tone made it sound like she was shielding them instead of addressing the problem, and now they were taking the heat too. Even neutral analysts, some of whom had once supported Engelbert, called her comments tone deaf. The divide between leadership and the league's new fan base had never been clearer. Inside the arenas, the disconnect was undeniable. Cameras kept cutting to empty sections. Broadcasters avoided wide shots. The few fans who did show up were subdued, their energy swallowed by the echo of vacant seats. It didn't feel like a championship, it felt like a rehearsal for a show nobody wanted to see. Engelbert's press conference only deepened the wounds. Her refusal to admit that Clark's absence played a role came off as arrogance rather than authority. Headlines wrote themselves, "Engelbert melts down, empty seats, empty words, WNBA in crisis." The league scrambled to regain control. PR teams drafted bland talking points. Social media staff flooded feeds with highlight reels, but the narrative had already slipped out of their hands. Insiders tried desperately to steer interviews away from the embarrassing attendance numbers. Nothing worked. Fans flooded comment sections with side-by-side photos, packed Fever games versus nearly empty finals arenas. "You drove away your audience," one viral post read. "Now you're playing for yourselves." Even younger players began speaking privately about the growing problem. Many were tired of seeing veterans treat Caitlin Clark's success as a threat instead of a benefit. One anonymous player told reporters, "Caitlin helped all of us. We all got paid more. We all got attention. Why are people mad about that?" That quiet statement spoke volumes. The divide wasn't just between fans and management. It was between the old guard and the new era. Kathy Engelbert tried to patch things up with an emergency meeting, bringing together representatives from both finals teams and urging them to focus on basketball rather than narratives. But by then, the story had already slipped from her control. ESPN, Fox, and independent YouTube analysts dissected the meltdown, calling it the biggest PR failure in league history. The numbers told a brutal story. Game 1 ratings barely hit half of what the Fever's semifinal matchups had drawn. Analysts refused to sugarcoat it. Fans have spoken, one said on national television. They care about stories, not slogans. And right now, the WNBA isn't telling a story anyone believes. Inside the locker rooms, players couldn't ignore the data. Headlines blared, lowest finals ratings in a decade. It was demoralizing. Aja Wilson, who had spent her career working to grow the league's audience, reportedly broke down privately. "We did everything right on the court," she confided to a friend, "and it still feels like nobody cares." Desperate to regain control, Engelbert held another media briefing, once again touting positive growth and expanded opportunities. But reporters had lost patience with buzzwords. The first question cut to the heart of the issue. Why are people tuning out? Her answer, "We're still in a great place," felt almost tragic in its denial because the truth was unavoidable. Without Caitlin Clark, the finals were invisible. Every attempt to downplay that fact made the league look increasingly out of touch. Cameras lingered on smiling players, but wider shots revealed the truth. Empty seats, a quiet crowd, a championship with no pulse. Game 1 would be remembered not for the winner, but for what it exposed. WNBA leadership had spent months insisting the league didn't need Clark to thrive, only to realize she was the force holding it all together. Once she was gone, the orbit collapsed. By morning, sports sites were ruthless. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's pulse flatlines. Talk shows dissected the finals as a case study in mismanagement. "This isn't a basketball problem," one Fox analyst said. "It's an ego problem." Fans agreed. They weren't angry at the players. They were furious at the arrogance that had pushed their favorite rookie out of the spotlight. On Reddit and X, petitions calling for Engelbert's resignation spread rapidly, gathering thousands of signatures overnight. "The league forgot who brought us here," one post read. Now it was paying the price. Sponsors were paying close attention too. Executives from major brands reportedly reached out privately, voicing their concerns about the optics. "We invested in momentum, not controversy," one representative said. Networks began rethinking future broadcast deals, unsure whether the finals could deliver the kind of viewership Caitlin Clark had guaranteed all season. In a last-ditch effort, the WNBA's marketing team proposed a fan appreciation campaign. But by that point, it was obvious the problem ran much deeper than promotions. This wasn't a branding issue. It was a credibility crisis. Fans no longer trusted league leadership. They felt alienated by players who had spent months mocking the very person who drew them in. The finals had become a cautionary tale. Aja Wilson's frustration, Dana Bonner's disappointment, Engelbert's deflection, they weren't isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a league tearing itself apart from the inside. The reality was simple. Fans hadn't abandoned women's basketball. They'd abandoned the attitude surrounding it. They wanted excitement, competition, and unity, not bitterness, politics, and pride. Caitlin Clark had reignited their passion, and the league had squandered it. By the end of the week, social media had settled on a new mantra: Kathy must go. It wasn't just a jab, it was a demand for accountability. Sponsors whispered about pulling support, networks cut back coverage, and season ticket inquiries slowed to a crawl. The WNBA had hoped the finals would cement its place in mainstream sports. Instead, it became a wake-up call. The league could no longer survive on pride or propaganda. It needed humility, transparency, and the courage to rebuild trust. As the lights dimmed on yet another half-empty arena, the message was undeniable. The WNBA hadn't just lost viewership, it had lost credibility. Until it learns to embrace the very player who brought millions back to the game, every finals will risk ending the same way. A championship played in an echo chamber, desperately seeking an audience that has already moved on. Why do you think the finals fell flat? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click the video on the screen. We'll see you in the next one.